Not that I'll use everything we record, but I like to
Yeah,
get
no
a
worries.
I like to get it to where you just enter the conversation instead of announcing
Yeah.
everything, you know? Like, what did
Well,
they say before they hit record?
I know, right? You kind of like feel like you missed out on something. I
Yeah.
like this because I usually don't get to have this backdrop for like business Zoom calls, so this is kind of more fun,
I love that you know how to use Zoom already and that you have great audio quality. To all my guests, I wish that, you know.
you know. I don't want to make anybody listen. It's bad enough to have to listen to my bullshit. I don't want to have it be bad audio too. My God.
I love that. And I just met you on Twitter. You had a great post about your recovery. And I'm sorry, I'm Jason. This is Patrick. You just entered a conversation you had no intention of entering, but welcome. But you had a post about finding solitude with your cup of coffee, and I really love that. And we always try and promote mental health, mental well-being, kind of protecting your zone, you know,
hmm
your center, like stand in your center and protect that from everything that tries to scope creep. And you're well aware of the things that can scope creep on your life, and I really appreciate. I'm just amazed that I found somebody on Twitter, and I was like, I have a great intuition for people, and it continues to amaze me with everything people say about people. It's really nice that I've always met great people. So thank you for that initially.
Yeah, thank you.
So I like I told you, I'm just gonna start quite simply. Patrick found himself in a hole, and I kind of wanted to start with how did you realize that? How did you get there in the way you want to describe it? And I I missed the whole beginning. I'm sorry. Let me start this again.
Sure.
Patrick, where are you from?
I was born out in Ohio, but I pretty much grew up most of my life in New England, mostly Mass and Rhode Island, and I'm in Maine these last 5 years or
Wow.
so.
Wow. Speak up a little more when you're talking because you started cutting out
Sure.
during that.
Yep. I'm
Okay.
mostly a New England boy, like I said. So I've been in Maine for about the last 5 years.
I love that. I mean, I always watch like these Restaurant Impossible shows, and they're always going to Maine and stuff like that.
Well, this is one of the best, restaurant scenes in the country. I get to work with a lot of great people in Portland. It's pretty amazing.
Nice. What do you actually do there?
Well, I used to be a chef myself, which is a great way to become, well, I wouldn't say become a drug addict, but to find out if you are, it's a really good litmus test.
Yeah.
So these days I do consulting for restaurants and hotels. I sell equipment and like, fun plates, things like that. So I get to work with chefs and restaurateurs. It's really cool.
All right. So the drinking scene is something that's just always around. With chefs, I know that's one thing. When on their downtime, they like to cook and they like to drink.
Those I did a lot of those things, but I had still have meetings with people that own businesses and breweries and bars, and yeah, it's something to be careful of, even still to this day for me. So
Wow. Well, I'd like, why did you move from Ohio? Was it a family thing or did you just set yourself
um,
free?
I apologize to my Ohio family, but yes, my mother and my father called things off pretty early. So I think I was about 3 when I got hauled back to New England. And
Okay.
while my Ohio family are lovely people, I'm very grateful for that
Yeah.
because I am just 120% a New Englander.
Totally. To be landlocked, people don't understand. It's a
It makes
devastating
me
thing.
nervous. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little too much corn.
I'm about 8 yes, way too much corn in fields that I don't know what that stuff is. I'm about 8
Yeah,
miles away from the Gulf and I can smell the sea air and it's something that's totally different to me.
yeah, that's probably about as far away as I am. And man, like what a gift.
Yeah, I like that. So your family was kind of so was mine. Your family was separated. Who did you move with?
My mother and I moved back to Massachusetts, and then I think at some point in the next year or so, she met my stepfather, who's just really a remarkable man. And he just kind of stepped in, and we kind of became a family, and just kind of did our thing. So
Isn't that cool?
yeah, it worked out good. My parents stayed civil to each other. They both moved on and had new lives and kids and families, and it's about as good as like a sad thing can turn out.
All right, so we can't blame anything on your upbringing then.
I'm
Is it?
sure we can find someone to blame it on. I'm an alcoholic. Nothing's my fault.
That's right. That's right. I forgot about that. Nothing is your fault. So how did you just
No.
stumble? You just slipped and landed on a bottle? Is that how it happened?
Yeah, one day I looked down and there was a 40 duct taped to my hand and making terrible choices, but
Right. But you were saying you hit it awfully well. I mean, were you a drinker as a teenager? Was it more of a social thing, or did you go beyond that even as a teen?
I've had to kind of like reflect on this with sharing my story in meetings. And I kind
Yeah.
of, if I had to pinpoint the start, being put on Adderall in high school was probably not a great thing because, I don't know if you're familiar, that's essentially four different amphetamines mixed together. And, that was definitely like the first time I remember experiencing like an altered state to like such an extreme degree. And
Okay.
instead of there being like reality, there was normal and then something else all of a sudden. Like that door wasn't open before.
Right.
So
It's something that took the edge off, right? Something that changed it and made it a little different. I think
yeah, and
as a kid, we as teenagers especially, we have so many chemicals in our bodies, nothing feels normal except an
yeah.
altered state, you know?
And I like the intensity of it too, frankly, because like you said, you're a weird, awkward teenager, and I was kind of a heavy metal kid, and so this just like wild rush. And I mean, I could do my schoolwork like effortlessly, and I could read a
Right.
book in like 2 days. I mean, it was fun, except for the grinding your teeth and not sleeping and stuff like that.
Wow. Okay. So you took it as like a challenge. That's what I took cocaine as. It was like, how well can I do, how well can I perform at whatever I have to do while being as high as possible to make that a challenge, you know?
Oh, you should have been a chef. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like, work through the pain, work through the pain, work through the booze, work through the drugs.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if you were hungover and you got 2 hours of sleep. Like I still showed up to work every single fucking day. Like I might not be able to see straight, but I was there.
Because it's the challenge. You got to cross the finish line, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't know, there's something about like New Englanders have this kind of like bullshit, hardworking, like obnoxious work ethic thing that like it's like
Mm-hmm.
cool to just kill yourself. And I mean, it's not. But we're all like swimming in that growing up, and the industry is just like a really toxic work yourself to death culture. And I mean, I did, man. That's a great drug. Like you can escape into work, sex, gambling.
Yeah.
Just being needed, man.
Distraction is a major thing. But I like what you said that we are kind of taught to work and work through it,
And
and
that's
just
your value too, man. Like so it's wrapped up in that. Like your self worth is there as well.
right. I think we got to get away from that money equals value, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
very much.
that wasn't really part of your issue. It wasn't I keep saying that like, I'm not I was never an alcoholic by the way, but like I said, out of the 100 drugs, one of them's going to destroy your life, and I think we have that in common.
Yep.
So you
Yeah.
found yourself in a hole, and how did you realize what was the point to where you realized there was no rock bottom that you could keep digging, but you just didn't want to
Well,
anymore?
I think things were always like on the outer end of that bell-shaped curve as far as like I was on the very far edges of social drinking in high
Okay.
school and college. Like it just became like the like self-destruction was like point. It was like how far can we push it, how crazy can it be, like how
Yeah.
much can I do, how much can I take, how long can I stay awake, and just
Right.
it was like the progressive nature of it in retrospect is just it's really frightening. Like, oh, I used to have a couple beers and all of a sudden you're drinking a bottle to yourself and
Mm-hmm.
then going out to the bar and like I was a big guy, but Jesus Christ, that's scary stuff.
Yeah, and in your 20s, life gets a little boring. There isn't as much action as when you're a teen, and then you still want that. You still want
Well,
to feel that, and so maybe you were just chasing that a little bit.
Well, I found a good outlet for that. I joined a Irish punk band in the Boston area.
Cool.
So it was cool, but it definitely ramped the drinking up and kind of like created a like I don't know, almost like an alter ego where like all of my shitty behavior kind of came into this like character and like I could kind of go out and like play that character and it was kind of helpful in some ways, but then
Right.
like also incredibly toxic too.
Right, and you realize 99% of the people you meet are meeting your alter ego, not you.
Yeah, and they like the drunken asshole that's, like, kind of entertaining and reckless, but, like, they don't have to be that person or, like, feel the consequences, and, like, me the next day, like, I do hurt people, and I do have to live with that, and I can't, like, I don't possess that skill, you know?
Wow, that's a great point. You do hurt people, and you don't want to, but you just do.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, you're not doing
No,
it
it's okay.
anymore. You're not doing it anymore, right? Like you've reached a road of recovery, so we don't want to dwell on the past. I'm more
No,
about solutions, and I'm more about
sure.
the revelation.
So
I want to know for other people that are listening, if they have an addiction, what are those moments of light? I was
yeah,
laying in bed and I cried, and I honestly said, God, either kill me or give me a life not of this,
yeah, yeah,
and then I jumped out of an airplane twice, and I spent my Coke money on parachuting. And then I was like, awesome,
yeah,
and it was just like it happened in an instant. It didn't take me 40
yeah.
tries to do it. So I'm just kind of
Oh,
wondering,
sure.
what was that light that you saw that you were like, a life beyond this is better than a life of this?
Absolutely. So, my wife and I had been together for married about 5 years, and she came down with some mysterious illnesses, and it became a
Mm,
very big ordeal. And I don't want to tell her story, but she essentially became bedridden. I left the restaurant industry, tried to kind of cut down my hours and accommodate just more of like a caregiver role.
mhm.
And the good thing there was I got into a more lucrative position in a better field and made more money. But the problem was we were trapped at home, lots of money. My lifetime of addiction with COVID and everything finally caught up with me, and the stress of being a caregiver. And I'm grateful I finally imploded because it brought me to this incredible place where I am right now. It was a year ago, last April, that I was sleeping 3 hours a night and waking up in the morning like sick, physically and mentally. And, like I could just feel that like I was near death. Like I couldn't function anymore. It was just, like you said, I don't know, man. It was very close. And I realized, like, man, something needs to change. And I started making a series of changes. It took maybe 8 months where I kind of just started moving towards the light instead of, dark. And something finally my mother said broke through to me. And like that aha moment where she said, "You're the giving tree." And I loved that book as a kid. And I thought, well, yeah, it's cool. He helps this guy out. That's great. But if you read that book to the end, there's no fucking tree left. So
Right, they used it to
he
build a house,
gives,
right?
yeah, he gave until there was nothing left of himself. And like that's kind of it's a powerful story. I kind of missed the point as a kid because I was a kid.
Yeah,
But
and
for whatever
that
reason,
book will have hundreds of different points the more you go through life.
oh yeah. But man, like that just broke. It was simple enough that my foggy, lying, just bullshit, like junkie brain, it got through to me.
Mhm.
And I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna die. And like no one else, my partner can't save me, my parents can't save me, my friends, not to mention I wasn't asking anybody for help. So like as we said earlier before we started recording,
Yeah.
you can hide your addiction and hide your spiraling and then still be mad that no one helped you, which is
Y
just lunatic thinking. It's insanity. It
Of
really is.
course, but that a death spiral spirals, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's a circle
yeah.
for a reason, and it's endless until you break the loop. God, I love
Hmm.
your mom for that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, she's a wonderful person, but I'm grateful to that because I was moving towards the that direction. And I was kind of like a weekend user and an everyday drunk, and so I was withdrawing every Monday, and it was just a bad thing. And I kind of started getting a little bit healthier, and I actually started taking psychedelics a little bit, and plant medicine kind of factored into my story a bit, and just kind of was able to get to a place where I felt that I actually deserved to get better, like to recover from this disease, that like I was a person that deserved happiness and health and love and all these things because I'd internalized so much negativity that I felt I deserved to suffer. I deserved this awful life
Yeah.
that I was living.
People feel they deserve to suffer, and
Hmm.
that's such a shame. You do something wrong and you think you need to atone for it, and you beat
Yeah.
yourself up and you beat yourself up, but nobody tells you that your 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 sentence is paid. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Something that my friends and I have been trying to do for each other is to not call each other out, but hey, I wouldn't let someone else speak to you the way you're speaking to yourself right now because it's so easy to get down on yourself and start, oh man, I suck. That voice in your head is just poison.
Right. And it's also it's a way to blame your partner and your friends for not dealing with your problem, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that's a real issue. And I tell people I'm self-partnered now, and all the things that I would have done for a spouse or a girlfriend, I do for myself now. And so I
Hmm.
make myself a nice dinner, and then I give myself a massage, and then I watch a movie with myself and eat junk food. And it feels good to take that time for myself, but it took a
Yeah,
long time to realize that I deserved that, that I just didn't have to like run myself to death to
yeah.
prove to people that I was worth something.
Especially because that ties into that whole thing about work and self-worth and value. And I think there's, I know your last thing is about masculinity, but Jesus, I mean, that's a whole can of worms there too, you know?
Right. Yeah, we're both in Marco and I are both antagonists and so I don't he has a hard time understanding the rainbow, I think, and that's fine
Mm.
with me. I do too, and that's why I do the show.
Well, I'm gonna make a point. I love a good argument, but I want to try to let this be about the message, and
Yeah.
so I'm gonna try to keep my crazy bullshit to a minimum for you.
Okay. We'll bring you back and you can have all the opinions you want.
Oh yeah, yeah. We can have a if you want to let me off the chain one day. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh, that's what we are, a bunch of perspectives that are off. I call us, what did I, our tomorrow's episode is called Tangents of Imagination because that's what we are. Let's
Oh, I
let's
like that though. It
let's
sounds like a
imagine
concept
solutions.
album. You know?
It does, doesn't it? And I love
Yeah, I
your
like that.
Grateful Dead background so much. I had that poster in the 80s.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So what yeah, what was the okay, how do I explain this? Nothing is cold turkey. Nothing
Hmm.
happens in one step. Everything takes planning and execution to get to a
Yeah,
point to where you can begin to recover, right?
yeah.
First you create the mindset that you need it and deserve it. And so what was the first thing that got you to that? Did you say it was psychedelics kind of?
Well,
I'm not
yeah.
demeaning it by microdosing
Oh,
is a very valid way of overcoming
yeah.
addiction.
I'm always like careful about this part of my story because I don't want to come out here and say like drugs got me sober because that's just very, very much not the case.
Right.
But that was a tool that in combination with, some intentional work and some, essentially like self therapy,
Okay. Yeah.
because those sometimes those substances allow you the space and the compassion to view yourself in a more objective light and see that wow, you were the victim in this case, or that you were just a kid, or those
Right.
those allowances we give so easily to other people in our lives when they
Mhm.
transgress, but for some reason we just nail ourselves down for.
Yeah. Okay. So
So
you didn't do formal therapy. Like you didn't go to a therapist for that.
no, I've done a good bit of that in my past, and I probably could have used it, but I was isolating through my
Yeah.
drinking and addiction, and so the
Yeah.
thought of spending my hard-earned drug money on a therapist was appalling.
Not to mention
But
that to be honest to anybody in that phase, I
mhm,
don't think is possible. You know, you're going to manipulate
no,
the situation to get the answer you want as an addict, right?
that was very well put. Yeah, and I think that like psychedelics brought me to a place of like embracing honesty, and after okay, you deserve love, you deserve to get better. It's like, well, what are we going to do about this now that we've acknowledged there's a problem? And
Yeah.
originally I came to my sobriety because I wanted to try to help my partner with some, things that she was battling, and I felt that my position would be undermined by drinking a half a handle of vodka every other night, or every
Okay.
night, I should say.
That is
So
fair.
I kind
That
of
is
came
fair.
into this. We were like in financial ruin, and I was just trying to help my partner because, of course, there was nothing wrong with me. I was everything was fine.
Right. And plus
And
you're a man and white knight syndrome is real.
I'm so, I just want to like call myself out, man. I'm so guilty of that. I'm always jumping in to save someone, and
Mhm.
it's just like I have a terminal case, man. I just can't help it. I'm like, just let me get in your business, and that's an escape, man. That's an addiction too. Like, let me not deal with
Correct.
my shit. Let me help you with yours.
Correct. I suffered from 45 years from that.
See, we're gonna get along just fine.
Yeah.
Um, but I was like unaware. I really I started as I came to a more place of honesty, feeling not okay with my opiate use. It was just something that I wasn't enjoying anymore. The
Mhm.
strain it was putting on my life, my marriage, my job, the physical toll of going through withdrawals. I don't know if you've ever done it. It's fucking horrible. I don't recommend that for anybody. And
Withdrawal is brutal. It's and
Yeah.
people ought to know everything in life has a withdraw time, right? Like
Hmm.
even joy, like at the ending of a relationship, you need to allow time for withdraw. And I don't think people do. Like buck up and recover. No, there's time
I
I
don't.
need,
Yeah. No, I'm always diving off into the next thing, and you know,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was it's a balance and for recovery for me because I need to stay busy enough that, I'm not sitting around with crazy thoughts and putting
Uh-huh.
myself in risk, but I need to not escape into work or sex or,
Mm-hmm.
saving people or, whatever it is. So
Filling
like
the
just
void, right?
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
there's a desperation to that because I stopped drugs, alcohol, I stopped eating shitty food. I changed my entire life, like not overnight, but
Wow.
like pretty fucking close.
You got
Sorry.
to make those changes. No, you can swear all you
Yeah.
want. Yeah. You got to make
Um,
those changes. I'm just in the
yeah.
quality of food phase myself, you know.
Yeah.
It's a journey and it's
Yeah.
all to tell yourself that you're worth something, you know?
Yeah.
Like I was depressed until I got rid of fructose out of my diet, and then I
Mm.
realized, holy shit, I feel good. Like I feel
You
good
look
enough.
well, you know?
I feel good enough to be worth something, you know? Because
That's beautiful.
pain is another one of those things that it terraforms the soul, and so is drugs. Drugs
Yeah.
is is a form of pain, and it's just the
Yeah.
truth, and it doesn't portray itself as that. It portrays itself as the savior, you know.
No,
But
but
drug,
I'm so glad you brought that up, man, because that's such a real thing. And like,
yeah,
the pain watching my partner endure chronic illness and watch it
hmm
just take her life from her in, almost literally
right,
was just I would have, you say like I would switch places with you, but my God, like I would have paid to because
yeah.
I'm okay with my own suffering. But watching someone I love in pain and I'm unable to do something about it is just, there's really not a lot worse,
There's nothing worse than that. I think
especially
somebody
for a codependent people pleaser like me.
I was just watching a TV show, and the guy was trying to put on a play, and he said people have to hear the whisper of the devil. They have to feel the kiss of an angel, and they have to know all of that through the law, man losing the love of his life. And I was like, God damn, that's my life. Like I could be a
Wow.
great play.
Yeah. Oh,
But
see, I just went, Jesus, I could be a country song. I'm sitting here blowing octaves in my trailer. Jesus Christ, this isn't good.
but it
And I
is.
play the banjo too, so it was really on brand.
Oh, I like that. I know a
Yeah, that's fun.
ukulele player. We could just start a band.
There we go. Yeah.
Well, you're in a band. You do what you want. You have fun with
No, no,
it.
I've been out for a while. I would love to get back into a band. So anybody
Okay.
out there needs a mediocre guitarist or mediocre banjo player, just come on by.
I don't know if you've heard lately, but music is mediocre. You'll fit right in.
It's quite. I mean, I hate to be like music sucks now, but I want to say I don't hear as much that like speaks to me from a place of authenticity. Is that more
Hmm.
diplomatic?
Right.
Cool. I like that. Yeah, that was like big kids saying, "Yeah, music sucks now."
It's well, yeah, it does. So, uh, you
I just keep
there's
derailing you.
no, no, no. I'm trying. I'm just going back. So there's times when I love that, by the way. I am tangents. That's what I am. There's the time when you decide to quit, and then there's this
Hmm.
withdraw time where you're trying to just get through that. I used to write no everywhere I went. So when I went back there and I had that thought, I would see no. And I'd be like, oh, Jason was already here, fucker.
Hmm.
And then who I blamed for my addiction, I also tried to eliminate from my life. Did you have an issue with that? Did like the people you knew, did they support you, or were they just like, no, man,
Oh,
you're
like in
lame?
recovery
Well,
or
in
just
there's that gray area where people that
yeah,
what you do is a wave behind you, and when you stop it keeps going, and you
yeah.
have to get past that wake, and in that wake is a lot
Hmm.
of judgment and a lot of friends telling you you're wrong, and a lot of people telling you you didn't do it soon enough, and a lot of people telling you you're not doing it right, and that
Yeah,
turmoil, I want people to expect that, because it's something that happens whenever you do something and then
yeah.
stop doing it, you know.
I mean, I think that's important. You know, you'll hear a lot of people in recovery, and it's like, man, my life is amazing now, and all this cool stuff. And you know, I mean, my life is amazing now, and like, I do want to talk about that. But you know, your life is going to change, and you know, friends and family, they're going to support you. But you know, you might also get comments about how you know you weren't very fun, or why were you hiding in your room on that vacation, or
Right.
you know, just people are going to support you in theory, but they're only really going to support you up until it starts inconveniencing them or their preconceptions or expectations about it. And then they're really going to
Right.
resent you because that fun, reckless, I don't give a fuck person isn't there, and you're this kind of somber person. And I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes your sobriety holds up a mirror to others and makes someone can make people uncomfortable with their own relationships. And like that's not I'm not I tell people, man, I'm not on commission, you know, like if you want
Yeah.
if I was happy to help anybody that, you know, reaches out a hand, but like I'm not trying to make conversions. I'm not a Jehovah's Witness, man.
Right. You're
Sorry, I'm
doing
not
your
trying
thing.
to,
That you're doing your thing, right? It's important to
yeah.
realize like people they feel left behind. I've met
Yeah.
a lot of
Hell
people
yeah.
I partied with felt left behind, and
Yeah.
the guilt of that when you see them later in life and you're doing good and they're still stuck, that's on both sides. Like they see
Mhm.
you and you're right. You put a mirror up to them and show them what they could be, and then they show you what you could be. And
Yeah.
so I don't know, those friends, they fall to the wayside, but they always come back around. And so I hope
Yeah.
they come back around better, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've definitely been gravitating to, you know, a couple people in my life that have been supportive of my sobriety, like really right out of the gate in just like a really genuine way. And that's been made it a lot easier for me. And, you know, I'm kind of blessed that I was able to stop opiates on my own and I was able to stop drinking on my own, but like I can't fix my behavior. So it was kind of like whack-a-mole, like cool. I took those two cards off the table. There's still 50 cards of shitty choices in that deck, you know.
Right.
You know, I was unfaithful. I had an emotional affair with someone digitally, and you know, I started engaging in like other just bad decisions, and
Hmm.
you know, so it was kind of like I don't know. it's it's I think it's important to just like note that it's about behavior and not substance because like
Right.
AA specifically like is really like an alcohol lens and like I just kind of use that as a placeholder personally, but I think it turns a lot of young people off because a lot of us are cross addicted and some of the old timers have sort of an attitude about that, and I just
Okay.
think, man, it's a big tent, you know, like we need to keep it open, you know.
Yeah, let me ask you about that. How did you find AA?
Well, in my family, we called going to rehab camp.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
going to camp, you know, so it was not like an unfamiliar thing.
Okay.
My mother's in recovery, and some other family members. So I kind of knew, you know, and I think maybe in the back of my head, I knew that this was something that like either could or was going to be a problem. But I was
Hmm.
able to reach out and find some online, like kind of Zoom AA meetings to start, and you know that was really good for triage because I was in a really hard place of insomnia. I could get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and get on there and listen to other people, and
Yeah.
you know, you said something about being left behind, and it's like, you know, a lot of addiction comes from disconnection, and so
Hmm.
just to feel a sense of community, it was so foreign to me. Like I had pushed my friends away, like there wasn't a wake behind me because I wasn't interacting with it.
Right.
I went to work, did the bare minimum of that, and I got drugs and alcohol and food delivered to my house, you know.
Wow. Yeah. And that the pandemic, what role did that play?
Just put everything into overdrive.
Yeah.
You know, like I just oscillated wildly in my mental health through that time. You know, my financial situation was devastated, and my home life was just such a pressure cooker. You know, we were essentially, you know, locked down for a year before because of,
Hmm.
you know, circumstance I don't want to get into, and so
Right,
it
right.
just we entered the pandemic as a family at a breaking point, and it
Okay.
just I guess in retrospect I'm grateful for it because with being a high functioning addict like I was and being an enabler, I mean this could have gone on for years and years, and man, like there's only three places that this ends, and it's death, jail, or institution, you know.
Right. Or recovery.
Yeah,
And
and that's
teaching people, right?
yeah, man, and that's the thing. Like, there's three dark roads you can go down, or
Mm-hmm.
you could live a life of service. And man, you think I'm giving up something. Yeah, you are. I don't drink alcohol anymore, but my life is enriched in so many ways. I'm sitting here speaking with you, and I'm speaking about my story from a place of confidence because I know when I listen to other people share their pain and their experience, and that they've come through this, man, that is a gift. It's a gift we give each other. And
Yeah.
I'm blessed to be able to have a positive impact on someone's life like that. Man, you could go your whole life and never impact someone. And I mean, I get to do it on a daily basis, and people do it for me. So
That's the way the world is. What was your first meeting like? I mean, people that don't know, right? People that don't know, that's what they worry about is these
mhm,
transition moments. And so that I'm
yeah.
trying to hit those. You're like, oh, I gotta go to a meeting. God damn it.
So, you know,
And what
it
do you
was
do?
nerve. Yeah. I think it was nerve wracking to go to a Zoom one. And that was like, oh my God. So I would try to keep the camera on and
Hmm.
just sit there and know that people could see me. And that at
Right.
first I was just, oh man. And that was really hard. And then I forced myself to speak, and then it became more comfortable. And, you know, once you realize that you sharing isn't about you burdening other people, that it actually helps everyone,
Mm-hmm.
then it becomes like you're more willing to take up that space and to speak and tell your story and have people listen, because like it requires self-confidence to share your story and to take up a room full of people's attention and to ask them to listen attentively.
Yeah, but you also validate their behaviors by saying somebody else could it could happen to somebody else too.
Hmm.
I'm thinking you said your mom was in recovery, and
Hmm.
my mom told me my dad was a cocaine addict. And for some
Ah,
reason, I did cocaine, and I always thought to myself when I was done, he's a good man. I didn't know him. He left when I was 3, and I always thought he's a good man. He got past it because I could. And if I
yeah.
got past it, so I'm wondering if you were just kind of assuming that life was like recovery and you had to become an alcoholic to get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know,
I
stupid kid
no.
logic. We want to be our parents in a way, you know what I mean?
I kind of think it was a like, this runs in the family, and it's in your family, so you just like, you almost don't want to like give it the space to like come to
Mm,
life in your mind. So it's almost like you just try to like shut it
yeah,
out. And I don't know about you, but boy, I'm terrible at that.
me too. Yeah, I relive everything every night. Like
Oh
somebody somebody
yeah, yeah.
somebody said I can't remember what the question was on Twitter and I just put I remember everything. That's me and that sucks. I just have that memory of every mistake I've ever made and every positive too, by the way. You know, I'm not a bad guy, but I'm good and bad. So,
As long as
d
you're watching both tapes, man.
right. Well, I try and drop my baggage at the door. Before I
Yeah.
walk into a new life, I try and leave the
Hmm.
negatives behind and remember the
Yeah.
positives. That's a tough thing to edit yourself, you know.
It
It
is for sure
it
though.
it all takes these little baby steps. Going to the Zoom meeting and sitting there. Yeah, that's
Yeah. But man,
that's
walking through the door the first time, like that was really challenging. I walked into
right.
my what's now my home group, and I think there was about 6 or 7 people in there, and I think you could charitably say that the next youngest person was 20 years my senior. And
Wow.
I just felt so uncomfortable. And
Mm,
they were just some really wonderful people, and they were friendly enough, but I'm sure I looked as uncomfortable as I felt.
yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I said something like, I think this is a cult and you guys are fucking weirdos. And they just laughed and smiled and were just still wonderful people. And I kind of, I came in wondering if I was an alcoholic, and it did not take a lot of research to say, my God, yeah,
Yeah.
and I've never like related to people. Not that like, look, I would relate to people, but I remember saying as a teenager to my mother, like, I feel like I'm from another planet, or I feel like I'm an alien or something. I just feel different than everybody else. And
Right.
I've always felt that way. I've always felt like an outsider, and that has pros and cons. But man, I walk into these meetings and I am like one of these people, and it's a very unnerving sensation. Like I've never been like a belonger to anything. And so
Yeah.
it's just really weird to be like, man, these are my people and they care about me and I care about them. And like we have this like I don't want to say like a sacred mission, but this like beautiful, like kind of impossible thing we're trying to do. And I'm like, man, this is cool as shit.
Yeah, support the person next to you, right?
Yeah, and a couple months later, man, I just volunteered last week. I'm gonna be chairing that same beginners meeting.
Right.
And just to come from a place of, dreading walking in the door to, man, I can't wait to go see these people and, go hug this person and find out, how that struggle went or how that family event that they were worried about went. And,
Yeah.
to meet these, men and women that are so much older and have such different lives that, man, I would never speak with. And I find myself so unaware of our differences in these rooms because
Mm-hmm.
we're the same, and it's wild to be, united in purpose. I think.
I love that. And what it tells me is that addiction isn't equal to weakness. You know,
Oh
like
God, yeah,
some of the strongest people I know have suffered addiction, suicidal thoughts, mental
yeah,
depression, anxieties. Some of the biggest guys I know, my roommate's 360 pounds, 6'3", and he told me today, I'm scared of everything. And I was like,
yeah.
I would have never guessed that, you know?
It's I mean, really, like, fear reactions are, it's the root of a lot of addiction. The
Yeah.
the fourth step is going through and listing your resentments, and, I started to say, "I'm resentful of this person," and I'm like, "Shit, that was actually my behavior, and this is my fault." And so a lot of this is having the humility, and that, comes from the higher power and from surrendering your disaster of the life to your higher power. But then it lends you the humility temporarily, just for the day to get through it and give you that perspective.
That's interesting because we never think about people are reacting to us, right? Like
Mhm,
that they're acting that way because we taught them to act that way, right?
mhm. And that's
Yeah.
what turns a lot of people off about AA. And I understand that. I was raised very Catholic, and I just roundly reject a lot of that stuff. I'm not an organized religion person, but you know, turning it over to your higher power is about saying my best efforts and my best intentions and thoughts brought me to sheer disaster, like, to for most of us the edge of ruin or well past the edge of it. My best efforts ruined my life. So
Wow.
of course the first step is to have the humility to say I cannot do this,
Right.
you
But
know, and believe it. And that takes time, like, and that's why there are, you work through these and work through them with people and you study
mm,
the book and you hear stories. And, I don't know, like, I can't say which of these things I'm doing is saving my life, but the
right.
combination of them all is. So I'm not going to stop doing any of
Wow. There was a great point in there, but I just love everything you just said. So, oh, your higher power
them.
doesn't have to necessarily be God, right? It's a higher
uh
power.
Yeah, you know, it means a higher power of your understanding or God as you understand him. Personally, for me, it's the divine feminine or like the mother is kind of like how I refer to my higher power. And I
Okay.
was blessed to have a bit of a spiritual life before I came to the program. And, I was able to work my yoga practice and,
Mm.
kirtan and meditation and some of these other things. So I kind of came to this
Ooh.
fight like pre-armed a little bit. And that was a blessing, really for me. And it's given me a leg up.
I like that. There is little things you can do.
Hmm.
Meditation is a great thing. I
Yeah.
I lost my wife, and we had an altar. She had an altar. She was teaching me about meditation and spirituality and crystals, and
Hmm.
she was just adorable. I would have done anything she said. But she
I'm
passed, and I found myself
sorry.
sitting in front of the altar, and what I realized was that I was diminished in my light because she was gone, but the Jesus statue and my wife's spirit were filling the void at the time, but I couldn't let them do that forever. At some point they
Hmm.
had to be the light they were meant to be, and they shouldn't keep me going, right? Something
Yeah.
else should keep me going besides that, besides Jesus, besides God,
Hmm.
besides my late wife. I needed to do something for myself and recover
Yeah.
so that I could do that. And yeah, feeling worthy of that is a tough thing, you know?
Yeah, but that's a beautiful, like, a living amends is something that comes up in the program. We're not. through circumstance or death or location, not always able to make an amends to someone that we've wronged. And
Right.
sometimes what you can do is try to, live your life in a way that honors them, or is, I don't want to say an apology. I don't feel like that's productive, but I think like in a way that honors them,
Sure. I mean, I'm sorry only means I'm sorry. The actions after, that's what means
Yeah.
something. So you can tell somebody I'm in recovery and I feel really bad about what I did. But then if you go back and treat people like shit like you did before, but not drunk, you're still an asshole.
Well, can I, and and I want to, in the like spirit of honesty, like I found myself a couple months sober and making like really bad choices and making poor interpersonal choices, and
Hmm.
just like engaging in this reckless behavior. And like, yeah, I kept
Yeah,
my sobriety intact technically, but like,
right.
to me it's just, I don't know, like I saw that like I was just as capable, if not I'm more capable of ruining my life now. And like I said,
Yeah.
I cannot drink. Like I was able to not take drugs, but man, I cannot fix my thinking, my obsessive thinking that brings me to, needing alcohol, needing drugs, needing a distraction.
Distractions, a project, something else besides yourself to work on, right?
So
Yeah.
eager to work on anything else. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And those people, addicts are some of the most feeling and most genuine people. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
they have different souls. They absorb things in a way other people don't, and then they try and numb that sometimes.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
that's a really great observation. I agree. I've heard a lot of stories start with, I was a sensitive kid, I felt too much, I didn't know what to do with it, and I didn't have the awareness as a young person to articulate that. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was just too much. The sad shit was too sad. The happy stuff was too happy. And when you put awkwardness on top of that, and like relating to
Yeah.
people in a weird way, it's just a good recipe for anybody to blow up.
Yeah. Thinking about that, getting teased and laughing about it. Like you're getting criticized
Mhm.
and it's a joyous moment. You don't know what to do with that. Get drunk, you know?
Well, you talked about fear before. Shame and fear are very closely related, and
Yeah.
fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and hate leads to the dark side, man.
Yeah, I think once somebody feels shame or guilt, they feel like it's gone. We're done. I might as well
Hmm.
go the full Monty because I just did
Yeah,
a little bit. I'm already feeling guilty. I can't get past I can't fix that. I might as well go the
yep.
other way and destroy myself, you know?
And that fuck it, that like say fuck it voice in your head, man. Like that's my
Yeah.
real problem. That's my root problem. Is just, fuck this. I don't want to deal with it. You
Yeah.
know,
Mine is
emotional stress or work stress or just whatever.
fuck it.
Fuck it. That's my go-to.
Yeah, mine is why not? And that's the
Oh, I
question that
like
gets
that
me in
shit. Yeah.
trouble every time. Should
I'm
I do
glad we never
this?
went drinking together.
Why not?
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
And so
Yeah.
what kind of people are you meeting in AA?
You know, jeez.
Do you have a sponsor?
Honestly, I do have a sponsor.
Okay.
He's a really wonderful man. Not someone that, at first glance, I would have thought that I would have had a lot in common with. And, as we've taken the time to get to know each other, it's been just astonishing. He's a really just wonderful, kind man. He's been sober for a long time. He's been really active in a lot of people's recoveries. And I'm just so blessed to have someone that I feel comfortable with and see eye to eye. And, I just have never had a relationship like this in my life before. It's really just, it's a gift, man. It really is.
Is that a relationship with another man like that or just a honest, open relationship in general?
Kind of a bit of everything. I've had close male friends, and but this is just maybe it's like I said, that kind of united by purpose. But
Hmm.
I find a solace in speaking with other people that have dealt with addiction. There's
Yeah.
just I think it's kind of like a war buddies thing. I just there's a shared reference, and I find it really comforting. I
Yeah.
can't. I'm sure there's a reason for it psychologically, but.
Struggle unites, right? Like I don't relate to
Hmm.
privileged people because I was never privileged. I always
Yeah.
struggled, you know? So
Hmm.
yeah, I get that. I really do. And then cultivating friendships. That's gotta be awkward in a way. Like, how do you then go out? How do you then go out and like meet people, right? Like,
Mm,
because I used to be able to go and party, right? Like I'd just go to a
hmm.
bar and then I'd meet people and I'd end up somewhere and I don't know how I did it. But then
You
I,
time travel and it's the next day and people are mad at
yeah,
you. Yeah.
yeah. But I just don't know, what do you do after that? Like, how do you live your existence? What fills your days?
You know, I kind of like made a post joking about this the other day, but I said I was afraid I wasn't going to get to party anymore after I got sober. And here I am today having a pancake party with a sober friend and their 6-year-old kid. So, like last Saturday, I started my day by having pancakes with a friend and her son. And it was really nice.
That's beautiful. I did find that like teaching kids and teaching kids those little things just makes me so happy. And it does distract in a really neat way because you
Hmm.
don't you don't want to you don't want to portray illness to a child, right? Or
No.
that kind of stuff. And so you want to present your best self and you're the
Mm,
adult and so having kids look up to you, that
it's pretty
seems to
cool.
be
Yeah.
like this pedestal that certain people need. Like they're useful that way.
I feel like having kids and dogs like you is a good like indicator of your character typically. I don't know.
Okay, I like that.
But maybe that's
Dogs.
just me making up a meaning that suits my bullshit too, I don't know.
Maybe.
It is
Maybe.
weird though to, be in a meeting and all of a sudden it's over and you're like, crap, I'm in a room with like 20 to 50 people.
Okay.
And man, the door is about 40 feet over there. Oh man, it's like over. Like I really should talk to people because man, if the meeting ends and I just get up and run out the door to my car, like, yeah, I was
Yeah.
there. But like
Right.
the gift is the fellowship and, just the shared experience. Like, yeah, it sucked. It was hard getting sober. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But like we're bonded by going through that struggle and by trying to help people, like
Yeah.
my kink is like giving a shit about other people, and I just love
Mine
being in a
too.
room full of other people that actually give a shit.
That is neat,
It's
isn't it? I always say surround yourself with positivity and there's never going to be
mhm.
a negative moment, right?
That's beautiful. I really like that.
So how did of course they affected you. You hear other people, everybody speaks, right? How does an AA
Hmm.
meeting typically work? Does
So
whoever want to speak get to speak?
sure, there's kind of a couple. I mean, I think there are probably like endless formats, but a lot of them are what's called a speaker meeting,
Okay.
where I would say, "Hey, Jason, I'd love you to come in, and I'm going to start up the meeting, and we'll give you 15 or 20 minutes to tell your story." And then folks will go around the room, either raising their hands. Sometimes we'll do like a raffle ticket thing if there's a lot of people, and folks will just kind of come in and kind of like you've done here with me, say, "Hey, man, I really liked this one thing in your story really spoke to me."
Yeah.
um, and that's like one of the coolest things, for me to sit there and tell my story about my degenerate life and have this like sweet like 7-year-old woman get up and be like, I used to do drugs too, just like that. I'm like, oh man, awesome.
Yeah, you make a great point. It was your degenerate life, but it wasn't a degenerate you, right?
No, no.
No.
Just
And people can just wash that away at any time. Other people are going to judge you for a while, but as you prove yourself worthy, people are going to see your worth, I think.
and man, after the like just years of hardship and watching my wife suffer and me suffer and all these battles, to have the bandwidth to be concerned about the opinions of other people is really not something that I don't have it. It's not a luxury
Yeah.
I have. And even if I did have the bandwidth, I wouldn't give it. And
Yeah.
I like calling myself a drunk and a junkie because I am, and it keeps me humble because the most dangerous thing for me is to come on to this podcast and pontificate about sobriety like I'm an expert. Like, yeah, and I white knuckled it
Right.
through 5 months, and I'm just getting on my feet and trying to help other people. So like I don't want to sit here and like try to claim that I have anything figured out or anything like that. I
Of
really want to
course
keep it
not.
humble.
I did I wanted to make that point at the beginning of the I yesterday I thought of ways to start the show, what kind of questions,
Hmm.
and I wanted to tell people what we are is we're a show of people about people. Like I
Hmm.
wouldn't have had you on if you were an expert. You're not
Yeah.
some psychological psychologist. Like, therapist, that's not you. And I wouldn't have had you on if I thought you were just going to spout out a bunch of answers, like
You want
canned
to talk to the
canned
zoo animals,
answers.
not the zookeepers. That's no fun.
Right. I don't want canned responses. I want somebody to relate with somebody that's actually been in the trenches, not somebody that watched other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but man, like really, thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here and share it today. And like, if this just touches one person, if somebody it just like even hears for someone in their family that's going through this, that there's hope, that it does get better, that man, people don't recognize the man that I am right now, because
Yeah.
I'm 60 pounds lighter and I'm not a lying piece of shit.
But I don't even know the other guy. So there
Yeah,
you
I
go.
don't either, man. It's okay. He's
Yeah.
gone.
Right. I think so.
So,
How would let me let's how would you suggest bringing this up if somebody is dealing with alcoholism in their family or with
hmm
a friend? What's the best way if that friend was you? Because I know you're an individual and you don't have canned advice, but like
hmm
how would you address that? How would you want somebody to address that
like
with you?
if a friend were to approach me thinking like maybe that they had a problem
If
or
so if I have a family member that has a problem, what's the best way
hmm
to address that with them without making them feel embarrassed or guilty?
mm,
Or maybe you need to. I don't know. That moment on intervention where they're like, these are the 10 ways that you messed up my life or whatever it is.
yeah,
Yeah, how would you want a friend to just come up and sit next to you and go, dude, you've gone too far? Or would you want them to just grab the lapels and go, stop it? What's the best
you
way to
know
start that process?
I think like it's hard for someone that hasn't experienced addiction. I don't think you really can understand what it's like to live in essentially like an altered reality. Like they're not experiencing the world that you and I are right now. Like
Right.
you're so surrounded by, the chemical fluctuations in your brain because of the substance and that
Mm-hmm.
impacting your sleep. And, there's just so much going
Yeah.
on.
It can really feed into that worthless feeling, right? If somebody
hmm
comes up and says, you're worthless, then you just go, thank you. That validates what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
hmm
And I like the way your mom did it. I think it's just kind of some side shots, like, who
Yeah.
are who are you? Who did you become? Just these little passing remarks that can stick in someone's brain because we give them time to think about it?
And I've had I'm fortunate where I've seen people in my life and in close people in my world's families where they've gone through this recovery and worked it, and they're unrecognizable from the people they were before. So I know AA is out there. I know it works. I didn't think I was an addict. Oh yeah, I was just a heavy drinker and like used
Right.
drugs and sure, but yeah, just I don't know. I think what really yeah, I don't know, man. It's hard to kind of quantify some of that, but I think what worked was knowing that there was hope. Like people need to be ready. They need to. It needs to get bad enough.
Yeah.
You need to be desperate. And I think if you're trying to help someone, the book talks about promotion or attraction versus promotion. So if someone new comes to a meeting and I want to try to be a resource for them, I will go and speak to them and say hello. But I'm not going to promote my recovery personally as like something that works. I want to try to maybe behave in a way that attracts and brings people to me and they want my help. But I don't want to go out there and promote myself. Like those are the same actions with wildly different intentions.
Right. Be an example.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that. All right. Is there any information you want to give out before we wrap up?
If you do know someone that's suffering, speak with them. You're not, the chances of you getting through on that first shot, they're not that great. But that's gonna sit there, man. Like, and sometimes you just plant a seed and walk away.
Yeah.
If you go to an A meeting, there's about a 70% chance you'll hear this hula hoop analogy. And it's, we're all here. You've got a hula hoop, I've got a hula hoop, and I'm spinning mine and you're spinning yours. And, if you're having trouble, man, I might be able to guide you a little bit or maybe give you a hand for a quick second. But, if I'm too focused on you, I'm going to drop my hula. So, it's it's hard to have boundaries when you're trying to assist someone struggling with addiction because they're going to be manipulating you and trying to leverage that relationship. So,
Correct.
sometimes it's about being there for people. Sometimes it might be about setting a boundary and cutting someone off and hoping that that brings them to a place of accepting help. But,
Yeah.
find, they tell us to find someone whose recovery you like and ask them how they did it. So, find someone in your community, find a friend. Like, there's a lot of people online. That recovery posse hashtag is incredible. I've
Okay.
met hundreds and hundreds of people, man, and there's people out there that care. Like, strangers will listen to you and care more than the people in your life that should.
Right. I mean, you burn the bridges. They're standing on the other side. They can't hear you, but new
Hmm.
people can. So I
Yeah,
like that recovery posse on Twitter, right?
yeah, that's really
Okay.
great. And again, not an expert, but like, if you have a question or if there's something I can do to help, let me know. I'm here in my capacity as one crazy person to another.
I love that. And where are you? Who are you on Twitter? We're gonna put your handle in the description and
Sure.
everything.
I think my Twitter handle is Kessel Walk Photo.
Perfect.
I got into photography around the holidays when I started getting sober because I was an insomniac, and it was just
Yeah.
a nice activity that kind of brought me back to life, and it's been a
Perfect.
nice gift to my sobriety.
Patrick, it's been a real honor to have you on. I appreciate you being this honest.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope we help someone today.
Me too. And you come back, promise?
Oh yeah, absolutely, anytime.
Cool. All right. I appreciate that. I'm going to wrap up and say thank you for listening to Public Access America. You can find us anywhere you find your favorite podcasts, and you can find Patrick by looking in the description portion of this podcast. We'll be back next Sunday with more episodes. Thank you. All right.
Awesome.